Broadchurch. The interpretation. It has been 10 years since the first season of Broadchurch aired. 10 years since 10.5 million viewers in the UK tuned in for its grand finale. The same groundbreaking amount that Jodie Whittaker got for her first debut episode of Doctor Who. But I digress. Broadchurch is nothing new in concept, but in execution, it is one of the best shows I've ever experienced in my entire life. It was a sensation, well-paced, expertly directed, phenomenally scored, realistically acted, and just so much more. And it's on the much more that I wish to draw attention to today. But I will not bring spoiling material to your attention, because I want everyone to celebrate Broadchurch's anniversary and entice those who haven't yet experienced this drama. Hence why I'll keep a lot of visual elements out of this video, which definitely sounds counterintuitive, but uh, I'll also lightly allude to, but absolutely confirm nothing in terms of plots, so if you already know, you'll know, but if you don't, you won't. And if you don't know, please give me the opportunity to sell you on the show and validate my efforts of not spoiling this by mayhaps binging Broadchurch ASAP? Thank you. I appreciate it, and you. Know what else I appreciate? Broadchurch's ability to resonate with people and keep everyone guessing and gasping and gut-wrenched by the emotional toll it carries, and one's interpretation of those emotions. This masterpiece is about a family wrecked by the murder of their 11-year-old son and the waves of wreckage that engulf the cracking community via the police investigation. So, no shit, it's going to be emotional. Where Broadchurch succeeds in its premise, balancing the fine line between drama and police procedural, is by playing into these emotions. But it doesn't milk these emotions and stir the pot just to get a reaction like most shows. Broadchurch is sensitive, but direct. It doesn't sensationalize anything. It portrays the emotions as realistically as people would feel them in these scenarios. More so, it lets the emotions sit uncomfortably long with the audience, just as it would sit with the characters on screen, and allows the emotions to breathe and drive the characters toward the plot, rather than have the plot shove them around. Because even though the main plot is finding out who murdered this 11-year-old boy, the characters affected by his murder are what invest the audience, whether it be the conjecture of who's guilty, what of, and what does it mean for the boy's family. Also, the boy's name is Danny Latimer. I can't keep being this vague, and it's like his name is revealed like 10 minutes into the first episode. It's in the synopsis, so just fucking let me say his name. Because all of these characters were touched by Danny's life, and each character is fully fleshed out beyond that mystery aspect. The audience gets to apply themselves to and immerse themselves in Broadchurch. Not only imagine what it would be like to lose their son, or see their community shattered by such tragedy, but see it on screen and know it at a fundamental level. A personal level, even. And this, my friends, is where interpretation comes into play. I've seen firsthand how differently and wonderfully and yet empathetically people take Broadchurch to heart. I luckily rewatched it all this year before I knew of the anniversary, having not seen all of it in about 5 years, but it felt like experiencing it all for the first time again, even though I could never forget the conclusion to the main plot. This time around, though, I finally got my brother and best friend to finally watch it, on the promise of its phenomenal acting, twists, and being unable to stop watching or thinking about watching it because they'd be so hooked. And I was right, motherfuckers! They were begging to watch it every night. And as I smirked at their attempts to deduce what these characters meant to Danny, I remember that desperate desire to devour the whole show from when I first watched it with my stepdad. This show broke records for us because we just couldn't stop watching it, and the haunting music at the end of each episode egged us on until we finished the show at 4 a.m. Mind you, I'm only in middle school when I watched the show and was lucky enough to only wait a year to get a DVD from the library, so staying up that late was unheard of and something special to be proud of. The next week, I rewatched it on my own, trying to see what I missed. Also, side note, so cool that Broadchurch only released and filmed the script at a time, so even the actors were engrossed in its premise of finding Danny's killer, because they had no idea who it was. I love that kind of shit. Anyways, after being destroyed by Broadchurch twice, in the coming years, I shared the show with my grandma, who was finally motivated to sit still and take a show in, as well as a Christian family I was friends with and then later depressed with by showing them Broadchurch. I'm sorry. And now my brother and best friend. It totals out to me watching the first season 6 times, the second season 5 times, and the third season 2 times. This isn't no reflection of how good they are, just kind of how I had to mentally be there for all of them. But what could possibly spur me to put myself through the show over and over again like that? The characters. Every time I watch Broadchurch, I accidentally relate to a different character and imagine experiencing the story from their point of view. every time I get a new experience because I can interpret the characters differently. And I was only able to do so because the characters were so in-depth and because I had developed a new real-life experience to help understand them with. That's why this show appealed to such a broad audience, because the characters could have been you, or someone you know, or someone that's happened to you that jades or enlightens what you perceive in the show. There's been such a variety in what I've heard my friends rave about in the show, from despising characters I loved or predicting things I failed to, and so on. But due to the journey Broadchurch takes you on, by the end of the show, everyone can agree. It's dark. It's suspenseful. It's gratifying. It's hopeful. It's life. It's just real life, done respectfully and realistically. And every time one rewatches it, they can catch their biases that led them to those conclusions and everything, and they can choose to let them go. Broadchurch can be as healing for an audience as much as it can devastate them. And that's what draws us in and made me rewatch it way too many times. Broadchurch means something different to me than it does to others. But I embrace that fact, because the meaning weighs just as heavy no matter how we interpret it. This essay was a bit of a ramble, I'll admit. Or maybe you interpret it with a foreknowledge of what's to come and understand what I mean when I say these things. See what I did there? Yes, very funny joke. Way to go. Either way, I didn't spoil anything. Yay! So nothing's stopping you from watching this masterpiece. Go experience the show, live it, and come back to me with what it means to you. No spoilers in the comments either. I just want to hear about you and how you feel. Because if we got into a compliment battle about the first season, D.I. Hardy would be way too busy to stop nice things from being said. Anyways, thank you for listening, interpreting what I've said, and just celebrating the anniversary with me. Okay, keep yourself safe. I'm getting better at outros. Wow. Anyways, goodbye, and thank you for listening, watching. Yeah, thank you. Bye.